Neutral density filters, or ND filters, can take your footage to another level, and I'm going to show you the difference that ND filters make. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, my name is Farhan and welcome to yet another video. I hope you all are doing well and staying safe. In my previous videos, I've talked about the importance of ND filters and how they can make your footage look more cinematic. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to Freewell for sending over these filters. Now before we dive into the comparison footage, let's talk about frame rates. Hollywood films and TV shows are usually filmed at 24 frames per second. So to be properly exposed, you need to have a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second, which is double the shutter speed. In this case, 1/48th of a second, but there's no 48, so 1/50th of a second. The human eye is accustomed to seeing the natural motion blur with fast moving objects. And in order to achieve that cinematic looking natural blur, you need to be exposed properly. The aperture on the Mini 2 is fixed at 2.8, so there's no controlling that. But you can still control the ISO and the shutter speed. Now when you're filming in daylight, your shutter speed is generally high. To compensate for the extra light, your shutter speed is set to a very high shutter speed. For example, 1/800th of a second, or even 1/1000th of a second, and upwards depending on how harsh the daylight is. So if you're on the lowest ISO, which is 100, and you manually adjust your shutter speed to 1/50th of a second, your video is going to appear blown out because the shutter speed is pretty low and there's a lot of light coming in. In order to reduce the amount of light coming into your camera, you need ND filters, which are like sunglasses, reducing the amount of light coming in so you can get that right shutter speed to expose your camera properly. Take a look at this example over here. I'm filming at 4K 24 frames per second and my shutter speed should be 1/50th of a second, but it's much higher than that. And I'm just moving the drone, keeping me as a subject, and as you can see, there's no blur, which looks unnatural. However, after putting on ND filters, I do the same thing and you can see the natural blur right there. Here's more examples with cars. This is without ND filters. You don't see any blur, it looks a little unnatural, but after putting on ND filters, look at the difference it makes. It looks more natural. Another thing I want to talk about is CPL, or circular polarized filters, which help in reducing the amount of glare and reflections coming into your camera when you're filming over water or reflective surfaces such as glass. But what's awesome is that Freewell has made NDPL filters, which means you can use ND filters to reduce the amount of light coming in to get that natural motion blur, but at the same time the polarized version, which reduces the amount of glare coming into your camera. So if you're on a boat trip, you can get that natural looking footage and reduce the amount of glare coming into your camera and have overall proper exposed footage. That was the part for videography. Now let's get into photography. How can ND filters help you with photography? Long exposures in daylight. You see these shots, light trails at night. These are taken with long exposures where the camera is exposed for a longer time. For example, a second or more, 2 seconds, or even longer than that, to allow more light to come into your camera. Freewell has also made ND 1000 and 2000 filters, which are much more darker, that allow you to bring your camera shutter speed down so you can get those long exposures in broad daylight. Take a look at some of these photos that I took when I was at the lake. Keep in mind that your Mini 2 is a light drone, so try getting these shots when there's a little or no wind at all, so your camera can stay more steady when getting these long exposure shots. As for what filter to use when That's for you to decide when filming. It can vary from ND4 to 8 to 16 to 32 and even 64 at times, depending where you're filming and at what time. The examples that you saw, I used an ND32 filter, but you can go even darker if you want, up to ND64 if you have that much of light. These filters are very easy to put on and remove, so don't be afraid to try them. They can really help take your footage to whole new levels, as well as your photography. Another tip, make sure to put on your filters before turning on the drone and remove them after turning off your drone. Do you guys use ND filters? If so, let me know down in the comments below. That's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the like button if this video helps you out, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button for more videos. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take care and stay safe.